We've been around for about 13 years. We're a visual effects studio that kind of specialises in film work, CG content for games and film. Recently, Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen, Saints Row 3, Ghostbusters, Green Lantern, Rise of the Manhunters, Bioshock Infinite, Darksiders 2. We did a lot of these. We've done the entire kind of CG gaming marketing campaign for, as well as a lot of in-game animation as well. 90% of our client base are international, so we're fortunate, whether it be US or sort of anywhere else in between. Our communication loops, we have the benefit of working during a client's evening. So the second they come in the morning, there's an approval, immediately on their door to have a look at. Gone are the days where you need a studio around the corner to do everything and facilitate everything for you. We definitely try to make ourselves feel like we're in there with the developer or the studio that we're working with. Being a part of the industry that you work on, I think, is a huge element. Being able to, I guess, the whole get it factor. At the end of the day, you can be, sort of in movie productions, but if you hate movies, that's going to show a little bit. So being sort of avid gamers and kind of understanding the games that we're working on kind of through and through, and a lot of the time being very passionate about them, I think kind of shows in the quality of work. It's important to do what you love, but also have it as a side hobby too, and not necessarily feel like it's work. For example, of I guess Dawn of War or Space Marine or Kill Team or any of those projects we worked on with Games Workshop. Games Workshop were at the helm of licensing, so things such as the way in which the character moves, or the sort of method of the kills, as well as the model and textures. We had submitted, I think, a Dreadnought and a Space Marine for the very first time to them, and we got an email back saying, "Listen, guys, this is the first time in history that we've done this, but everything has been approved." And we were just like, awesome. And I guess it kind of goes back to the point of if you're passionate and love being a part of it, naturally everything else kind of fits into place. What we have here is a storyboard. It's an animatic, and it's one of the very first things that we look at after we've developed and kind of refined the script. And what this particular piece is for a Neverwinter. Now, there's been a couple of changes since this version, the final version, has been released, but it gives you a bit of a kind of a quick insight into character movement, composition, layout, flow, and general timing. But this is the fun part where you get to really kind of lock in all the action, the fight, choreography, and all the cool characters that you get to see. The process kind of continues. We work with the character models to a varying degree. We generally start as a first pass block, a second pass and third pass, and what those entail is a block out, so just general proportions and scale and overall look for client approval. Following that, we have an additional detail pass, and then the final kind of ZBrush sculpt pass. In addition to that, there's also texturing and all the necessary maps that are involved with it. So this is a character turnaround of a character called Nox, and this is with everything on him, so rendering light, everything finished, and done a turnaround for approval of the client. So this is a kind of good indication of how he's going to look in scene. At this stage, we ask the client for approval on this particular asset before we integrate them into scene. We've got a mixture of sort of IBM iDataplex render farm here, as well as super micros, and they range from about 24 to 32 gig of RAM. I believe it's DDR3. Our team manager will kill me if I get this wrong. In addition to that, I think they have on average 2.4 gigahertz dual, and I think they're expandable up to 2.8 off memory. But the awesome thing about this is they're hot swappable and expandable. We can relatively quickly add more or remove them as we need. And our desktop workstations naturally need a very similar capacity, because whatever the team's sending from the farm to the desktop or vice versa need to be a very similar spec. Otherwise, happy surprises happen as a result. So processing power is a pretty critical part of the process for us. We've had jobs that have been a scribble and a napkin thrown at us. We've had jobs that are fully fleshed out, storyboards and concepts. We can receive assets from a developer and a client that we use and build up into a cinematic, or it may be a situation where we have nothing. We build everything from scratch. So we essentially start off with a concept and an idea rather, and sort of work from there and flesh something into a living and breathing thing. I'm a big fan of Final Fantasy VII. and that game was just cutscene after cutscene after cutscene, in a good way, you know. And the Final Fantasy series as a whole is a similar beast. I definitely see the two separate schools of thought, that the fact that the immersion can be taken away, suddenly playing a game versus watching a game. We're sort of fortunate that we do a lot of in-game animation cutscenes, so interactive cutscenes as well as the CG stuff. So we're kind of on the fence with both of them. It'd be hard to pick a side. I definitely see the industry changing in that sense as well, and like different game development companies looking for opportunities where they can allow the user to feel more interactive, but really give them something of a much higher quality than, say, the console would be able to provide. We're not under any illusions that we're a game development studio or sort of anything else in between. I think what I mean by that is that cinematic work, in-game animation work, visual effects work is our forte. It's something that we specialize in for quite a long time. Development and the development of games is considerably hard work, and sort of sticking to what our experience sort of entails, I think, is a critical thing for us.
What's the best way to go and get involved if you want to be in the visual effects industry? Sure. Particularly with the games bent? A
lot of universities as well as private colleges offer very kind of competitive courses that I can't really necessarily point at one or the other. It's always unique, the situations that sort of present themselves, so it's being in front of employees as much as humanly possible, and ensuring that the work that you have is of quality, and just be within your community and be excited about it.